Good afternoon. The time is 4:15. Sorry, we're getting started a little bit late, but this is a regular meeting of the Education Outreach and Training Committee of the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force. This is our first meeting where we're going to be proceeding without a clerk. And so I ask for people's patience as we sort of kind of figure out the process. But basically, I would ordinarily have the clerk call the roll. So instead, I guess I will call the roll. So Member Manet.
Present.
And for the record, this is Chair Jay Costa present as well. Member West is noted absent. So I don't believe there are going to be any agenda changes, but there is the matter of taking minutes. I wonder, would you be willing to take some notes as we proceed?
Sure.
Thank you. So the first item that we're hearing is hearing on the status of the order of determination against the Arts Commission for not providing draft minutes of a meeting. And the complainant in this case is the Library Users Association. Are the complainant and respondent present? Respondent is noted present. Don't see the complainant. The clerk indicated that there is no communication from the complainant, so I would be interested in proceeding, I think, with the case since the respondent is here. How do you feel about that?
I support that. I agree with that.
Is the respondent okay with proceeding without the complainant present? Okay. So if the respondent would come up, you have 5 minutes to say what you would like to say.
Is this on? It is.
Yes.
Good afternoon, members of the task force. My name is Zoe Talaporos, and I'm a representative of the Arts Commission. So it's my understanding that this item and the following item have already been heard by the full task force. Mm-hmm. So perhaps you could clarify the purpose of hearing it today and the role of this committee. I'm here to answer any questions you have.
Sure. So basically, the role of this committee is to take matters that have been heard by the task force and basically, to kind of put it in simple terms, like to just make sure we're on the same page about, what the finding of the task force was, what your practices are that may have caused us to find a violation, and hopefully to leave on the same page of, well, going forward, we know what we have to do to not be in violation anymore.
Right.
So does that answer your question?
Right.
Okay.
So since the Arts Commission was found in violation, we've taken a lot of measures to make sure that all staff receive sunshine training, and we have responded to similar requests from Library Users Association regarding draft minutes or meeting notes for the Visual Arts Committee meeting, which have been provided in a compliant fashion. And I do have examples of that to show you if you are interested.
Sure. I would love to see them. Yeah.
Would you like me to explain what you're looking at?
That would be great, yeah.
Sure. So this was a request from Library Users Association dated October 27, 2011. It's an immediate disclosure request, and to summarize, he is requesting the notes or draft minutes for the Visual Arts Committee meeting of Wednesday, October 19th, 2011. So this was received via email, and on the following page you'll see the Arts Commission's response dated the next day, and the provided document attached as well.
And so the attachment is the minutes that he requested? Is
They
that
are yes, exactly. They were the notes for the minutes,
the draft minutes?
the draft minutes, essentially.
And so these draft minutes, just so I understand, these were originally provided, or this is what has been provided since the
This is a separate occurrence to the incidents that's the incident
question.
In question, exactly.
So this is
a subsequent request. And I'm providing this as an example of, our awareness of the violation and what we've done since to correct it.
so the original request dated back from when? When was that? It was like a
Original request, I believe, was in August.
okay. Because I'm looking at this and noticing it's October and thinking
Right.
that's a while ago. So you feel like you've been since that original request back in August, you've already implemented better practices.
Many better practices, I would say.
And how was this received by Mr. Warfield?
Very positively.
Okay,
Yes.
great. Well, that's really good. I mean, that's something that we really appreciate seeing, and we, this is exactly what the function of the task force is to help agencies become in better compliance. And
Right.
so we appreciate, you taking that seriously and making efforts to be in better compliance.
We've had an entire staff training regarding sunshine, which was conducted by our city attorney. We've also developed work groups within the staff to review all meeting requirements, posting of agendas and such, to make sure that all of the separate departments and committees are in compliance.
So something that that's great, and also, a great sort of, I'll shut this off because we're straying from the structure a little bit, but that's okay. Something that I think is worth noting is that there have been some areas where the city attorney issues certain opinions on matters of sunshine that the task force holds different opinions on. One example of this, for instance, is including public comment in the minutes. So there's a disagreement between the city attorney and the task force about whether or not public comment actually, if someone submits a 150-word statement summarizing their public comment, whether or not that has to actually be put in the body of the minutes as opposed to included as an attachment to the minutes.
Right.
And so there are some areas where there is discrepancy between what the city attorney, sort of in its good government guide, says about best practices for sunshine versus what the task force, how the task force has been, deciding on the matter. And so I want to make you aware of that and know that, I'm so glad to hear that you've been proactive about having a training, but that there may be certain cases where if it's a training provided by the city attorney, if there's a complaint filed and you end up getting brought before the task force, there are certain issues where we are not in perfect agreement and you still may be found in violation, even if you're following the advice that you received from the city attorney. So having said that, I want you to know that we're really available as a resource for this topic too. If you ever have questions about practices, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We are also always happy to provide trainings. And yeah, so please just know that, we want to be more of a partner working with you to help this, compliance be met, not an enemy. And yeah.
Yeah, it's very nice to hear that. Everyone at the Arts Commission is dedicated to being in compliance and to do it in an amicable way.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Do you have any questions about this, or do you have any? You technically have another 3 minutes if you want to make a closing statement, or if you have any.
No further remarks.
Okay. Member Mene, do you have anything you would like to add or ask? Or?
Just for the record, I was actually just kind of curious when that training with
the city attorney happened?
I don't recall the exact date, but I'd
No,
be happy.
or perhaps a month? If it was in 2012 or 2011?
It was 2011, I believe. But I don't remember the exact date.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
That's fine.
Okay, thank you. So the next item that we're hearing is also. Oh, I'm sorry. I mean, I guess we didn't really come to a conclusion. I would, without objection, like to consider that matter concluded, since it seems. I mean, short of hearing something else from Mr. Warfield about a different story, in which case we can take it up again if he feels like it hasn't actually been concluded. But it seems like the respondent has, responded to the complaint and changed practices in a way that actually has manifested itself with the original complainant that he seems happy with. So, and to my eye, looks like it is in compliance. So I would move to conclude this matter, or maybe just do it without objection. That's okay. Is there any public comment on that? Okay, great. So the next matter, the next item on our agenda is another complaint, the complaint against the Arts Commission by the Library Users Association for not allowing provisions for general public comment about the Bernal Heights Branch Library mural. So once again, not seeing the complainant present, but is the respondent going to be the same? Okay. Yeah, again, 5 minutes.
Yes, thank you. So after Library Users Association brought to our attention that general public comment was not provided on the Visual Arts Committee meeting, we have changed that and put it on the agenda. So I believe in your original packet, you were provided with a subsequent agenda from December of 2011, and I have copies of every agenda since, if you'd like to take a look. That includes an item for general public comment.
I would love to take a look. Yeah. So does the committee take, is public comment taken sort of generally in line as an item here, or is it taken at a given time during every?
It's taken before an action is an action is voted on for each item. So it's verbally announced for each item, and then there's a general public comment for the public at the end of the agenda.
So it always comes at the end of the agenda.
It comes at the end. Yeah.
Okay. Something that we do as a task force, and I think is a good practice that you might want to consider, is we will put it on the agenda as an item late, sort of like as one of the last items that's like technically on the agenda, but we'll also notate it as that it's heard reliably, like right around the 5 o'clock hour. Like our meetings start at 4 o'clock, and they go very late. Mm-hmm. So I don't know how long your meetings are. And maybe you can tell me how long they are.
They're generally about an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Okay, so sizable amount of time. It might be worth sort of planning that
Sure.
At a if it starts at 5 and goes till 7, at 6 o'clock every meeting, or as close there to in between items, you'll call for general public comment, so people can just sort of expect that if they show up at a certain time, they'll be able to speak to an item rather than having to sit through the entire meeting and wait for it to come up.
It's a great suggestion. We've also included on the agenda approximate presentation times for each item with the intention of if a member of the public wishes to speak to that item, they have a general idea of when it's going to occur.
That's great. That's really excellent. Again, thank you for, responding to this process and incorporating the determinations of the task force.
Thank you.
Do you have any, so how, again, have you been in contact at all with the complainant about this, or have you heard any feedback from the complainant about this?
He has come to several of our meetings since and has acknowledged that public comment is now a part of the agenda. So.
That's good. I'm glad to hear that. Member Mena, do you have any questions?
I do not. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions for me
No.
or us? Do you have any? Again, you can have some more time to say anything further that you have.
No, I have nothing further to say.
Okay. Well, thanks a lot for showing up. We really appreciate it. Thanks for taking seriously, being compliant with Sunshine. And again, just please know that we're here as a resource. If you ever have questions or if we can help you, be more compliant, let us know how, and we'd love to.
Is the general number what I should be calling if I have questions, or?
Yes, you can
okay.
get in touch with the administrator, which is the general number, but you can specifically ask, to be put in touch with me. My name is Jay Costa, or any members of the Education Outreach and Training Committee, and
Great, that's
would be
great
happy
know.
to. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you. Sorry, I should have also asked, was there public comment on that before we consider it concluded? All right, seeing none. The next item on the agenda was talking a little bit more about outreach to city agencies, and kind of just jumping off of those two items that we just heard. I think it's not something that a lot of agencies are aware of, that we want to work with them as much as we do, and how we could be more proactive in doing that. So I started pulling together a list of all the city agencies and commissions, and basically trying to find the contact person there, like ideally the secretary, or there's somebody who seems like they could direct us to who the supervisor of records would be. And there are like a lot of them, so I'm only partway through, but it's something I'm working on, and I'll continue working on it. But when it comes time to actually start reaching out, I think that's something that it would be great to divide up the labor if possible.
Of course.
So yeah, I think that, and well, this is kind of jumping the gun a little bit, bleeding into item number 5. So maybe I'll refrain until we get to that. But do you have any comments on
On the outreaching to city agencies? No, I don't. But
Okay.
note that I'm more than happy to take on whatever I can to facilitate the process.
Okay, great. Is there any public comment on that item? Okay. So the next item is dividing labor among the EOT. And something we talked about last time we met was sort of looking at it from a 3-pronged approach,
Right.
conveniently, since there are 3 members of the committee.
Right.
Press, outreach to city agencies, outreach to the public. And I think that's like still a really good way to look at it. And so, maybe we need to table this discussion until Member West is here, because it seems like a something that we should all talk about. And it seems like maybe it's something we should wait until the new appointments are made too, because we may end up with more members of the committee. But something that as soon as possible, I really kind of want to get hammered down, like which ones of us are going to be responsible for which domains.
Definitely.
And I wonder, so since we are both here and ready to talk
Sure.
about this, do you have any out of those three, do you have any preferences for like what you would want to work on most? Or
I guess given the nature of the work that I do, I'm more than happy to help in tackling the press. But I mean, I'm more than happy to really do whatever is needed. But I guess just with the contacts that I have with press, particularly in communities that are likely less connected and aware of how to be engaged, and who really honestly probably have no idea the Sunshine Ordinance exists, I'd be happy to approach those folks.
okay, cool. Is there any public comment on this item? Okay, seeing none, I think we're going to wrap that up since, again, Member West isn't here, and since our membership may be changing, will probably be changing imminently. We're just sort of waiting on new appointments to the task force by the Board of Supervisors, ourselves included. And so I thought it was important to kind of keep this on the agenda as an item that we're actively thinking about, but in terms of really trying to make too many substantive decisions, I think it's better to wait until we know what the committee is going to be comprised of for the next year or 2 years. So the next item on the agenda is general public comment. No general public comment. Mr. Pilpel is here just in time for general public comment. That's correct. We have been robbed of our clerk.
Unfortunately, we
Well, the record will so reflect that David Pilpel walked into the room and was discouraged that we have lack of staff and encourages us to have staff in the future. Perhaps that's one of the things that we can attend to. I assume that there was some discussion of items 4 and 5. That's what I was.
There was, yes.
Breezing by around.
It was. So I
I
explained.
look forward to reading about
There
that in
were
the
some
minutes and/or
details.
listening to the tape. And we will see, based on the composition of the task force in the future, where we go with stuff and things. And we're kind of in a bit of a transitional time right now.
That's essentially what.
That was the nature of the conversation.
And for someone who wasn't here, it's amazing how, to which I say again, thank you.
Great. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
So, I mean, I think in light of that, I would like to keep it. I would sort of like to keep those items as items on the agenda
Sure.
for the next time. Hopefully, by the next time, we will have a new task force and we'll have some new members and we can have a really substantive discussion about what's going to happen. I'm going to keep working on compiling that list
Sure.
of contacts at different agencies. And I would like to, for the record, also state my disappointment with the fact that we no longer have a clerk. I think that it's making it a lot harder for us to be in good compliance with the Sunshine Ordinance. This is already an extra meeting for us to have to worry about recording it and also taking good minutes while we're actually hearing it is going to be tough, and it's going to make any extra work that we have to do outside of this meeting, like sending press releases and like compiling contacts at a list of city agencies. It just makes it, the more that we have to do to just keep the basic administration of the committee on task, the less that we can do above and beyond that to actually be a good functioning committee and a good effective committee. And so I am disappointed to hear of that decision by the clerk of the board not to clerk this committee anymore.
I echo those exact sentiments. However, for the members of the public, I am taking copious notes to the best of my ability, and hopefully you'll be able to see those in the next few days when I send them to the clerk to post. We'll see how they measure, if they measure up or not, but just know that we are taking notes.
So are there any other agenda items you'd like to see put on for the future? Or?
No, I suppose, and again, we would probably just wait until potential new members get on. But just sort of going to item 5 specifically, like how we would possibly want to have like more outreach and trainings and things. But again, that's going to come with time and when new members are seated.
Mm-hmm. All right. Seeing, yes.
Public comment on that item?
Sure.
Okay.
Please.
I would just suggest continuing division of labor, whatever you want to call committee work plan, and possibly review of regular meeting time, because depending on the new members, this might not work as well, and let's keep that option open. So maybe making that discussion and possible action item at the next meeting to change the, or to just consider the regular meeting time of the committee.
Thank you for bringing that up. I actually really agree with that. Personally, this is a pretty tough meeting time for me to get to.
Yeah.
If it were an hour later, I think it would be a lot easier for myself and probably any other member of the public that works a full-time job to get to. I mean, I don't know if you have any specific thoughts about times that it would be
Well,
better.
I'll just run a concept by you since I have a moment and I'm already late to another thing. In the event that I get reappointed to the task force, one of my interests is in reducing the number of complaints and having a different process to handle complaints so that not nearly as much time is spent on complaints, and the time that is spent focused on complaints that really matter. To that end, I think that the task force might consider having full task force meetings like twice a month that are shorter, but not, 2 times 6 hours, but maybe 2 times 2 hours or 3 hours. And if that were to happen at 4 or 5 o'clock, for example, one of the committees could meet ahead of the full task force. So you sort of would have a committee meeting like at 3, a bit of a break time, and then the full task force from like 5 to 8, something like that. And so that could alternate between compliance amendments and this committee with complaint meeting on the call of the chair. So that's a concept so that we're not having to meet 4 or 5 different times during the month. But when you're here, you spend some time, and it would be roughly the same amount of time, but fewer opportunities to come down here and do a thing. Mm-hmm. So that's a thought. There are obviously other ways to configure it.
I appreciate those comments. I think that I really agree that just like the general procedures of the task force in terms of meeting times and structure of meetings could really use an overhaul. I think that it's definitely not optimally structured, and what's frustrating is there doesn't seem to be, or there hasn't seemed to be, a spirit among the members to really take time and have that discussion. And I think that to a certain extent that makes sense, because the more time we take to discuss those sort of big overarching things, the more there are members of the public out there being frustrated with us for not hearing their complaints instead. And so I think it has been a priority of the task force to just be hearing complaints. But I think that you're absolutely right to bring this up, because I think that considering something like this and making some really well thought through changes will really leave us in a better place to deal with the complaints that the public brings to us in a more efficient way, in a way that really lets the public feel better served by the task force. So I agree. I definitely am on board with that, and I hope that whether or not you're appointed or we're appointed, that's something that in the next quote unquote session of the task force that will be taken up as a serious as a priority. I think it should be a priority.
And I just want to be clear, I think those complaints that have been filed under existing procedures should be processed, should get their day and their due, but at the same time, I think one could design a new method going forward for new complaints after a certain date, so that there is, less time on that. I mean, frankly, I just don't think that there's enough time and bandwidth being given to the EOT function, which I think is pretty central as well, and just more resolving the practical issues day to day. I don't think everything needs to rise to the level of a complaint. It's kind of like, well, do you have written procedures? Let's look at those. How do those compare to other agencies? You know, somebody's got best practices here. Let's figure that out. You know, it's kind of like we want to work with people.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, let's leave it at that for the moment, and thank you.
Of course. Thank you.
Okay.
Is there any other public comment before we close up? Okay. Anything else from you?
No.
Okay, terrific. Well, in light of that, I think we have a few really great agenda items, and we will work on getting the minutes up ourselves, and hopefully next time we'll be back with a lot of fresh faces. So, is there a motion to adjourn for now?
So moved.
Okay.
Bye. See how my minutes measure up.
Do you want, so I think we have to get them up, like.
I'll totally type them up tonight.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'll email them to you and to Andrea. I don't know. And then if you like, you're super more than welcome to like add or delete or whatever if you think there need to be any changes.
Okay.
Yeah.